Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Fabio Wardley remains unbeaten following a stoppage over Eric Molina in the 5th round of their fight on the Alexander Povetkin and Dillian Whyte 2 undercard. But it wasn't without a few hiccups here, because Fabio Wardley, just a little bit too casual, played with his food for a bit and ultimately almost paid the price, getting rocked in round 5 of the fight before then taking Molina out seconds later when he was punching with the American. So Molina thought that Wardley was good to go, or ready to go, should I say, but ultimately came off second best. And this was a fight that, for several reasons, I didn't really like how it played out, because, as I say, Fabio Wardley just a little bit too casual, really just taking his time. And I have to say, he did say ahead of this fight he was going to ease into it and let it go some rounds, but there was some risk with that strategy because he wasn't making Molina work. Often he was standing in front of Molina, sort of throwing feints out there and not really doing too much. And for parts of quite a few rounds, there wasn't much activity. Molina wasn't having to do much. He was the one just sort of sitting back, waiting to throw a counter. But sometimes he was able to go, 20, 30 seconds without really having to do much at all. He wasn't being tired out because the pace was so pedestrian. Fabio Wardley was asking to be hit by having his hands down. He was just so casual about this, no urgency. And after the first round, he said to his trainer, because obviously there was some discussion in the corner, come on, pick it up a little bit. He said, look, I just needed that first round. And that first round, pretty pedestrian stuff. There was a few trading jabs. But actually, round 2, I gave to Eric Molina. I thought he landed the better shots in that round, and also there was a right hand that landed towards the end. There was some body work earlier in the round. Round 4 was another good Molina round, and then obviously you have into round 5, the casualness continues, hands down, sort of admiring his own work when he did sort of, deign to actually throw a punch, and then he started to get hit. And this is one of those things that was building up through the fight. Molina was starting to catch on to Wardley just a little bit more, body and head. Ultimately, rocked him with a right hand. He had to backpedal, and this is when Molina thought, okay, I'm in here. He went to try go for the finish. But obviously, as we saw in the fight, a couple of shots from Wardley. There was a short left hand, a good right, and he was down. It sort of maybe looked on the replay, maybe there was also, they got tangled up a little bit and sort of Molina partially influenced going down from that, but he was hurt. And there were 1 or 2 moments earlier in the fight where Molina, when he tasted Wardley's power, he didn't like it. But yeah, certainly he made no effort to beat the count, counted out. So on that score, I don't think there was any real controversy. But hopefully a lesson for Fabio Wardley. You don't get paid for overtime. And don't try to just sort of finesse a performance where you think you can just do enough to cobble a few rounds so you can go a few more rounds to get them under your belt. Because that let Molina into the fight, and Wardley almost, that could have been a massive mistake and something that went wrong for him. But ultimately, though, he was able to recover and get Molina out of there. But yeah, didn't really like what I saw on that front, especially the hands down. I mean, his reflexes are good, but they're not that good. He can't afford to do that at this level of opposition and higher. And bearing in mind, Eric Molina, in my view, is pretty washed, and that opinion has not changed. He's a husk of a husk, but you can't play with your food if you're Fabio Wardley, because even husks can still throw punches and still catch you, and he was starting to catch up with Fabio Wardley more and more as the fight wore on. So in some ways, it wasn't a good performance. It wasn't that impressive, and coming through, Fabio Wardley has looked impressive. Every fight he's built on his performances. But this just felt like he, thought he was always going to win, and it didn't matter what he was going to do. He was going to get the win. Almost got the rude awakening. But impressive finish. He gets a highlight reel knockout. But, it was a big stage. And I think maybe he just judged this wrong. This was meant to be a showcase fight, and it was still to an extent, but he needed to show a little bit more urgency, make Molina work more, and really just hammer home his advantages, which he did have, speed, power, pretty much across the board, rather than sort of standing there, throwing feints and not doing much for large portions of the fight. It was weird and bizarre to me. But what did you make of this, and who do you want to see Wardley next? I think maybe take stock at this point. Let's keep expectations in check about the level of opponent. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight for the British title, have a couple of decent domestic level fights. Nick Webb, that might be a good fight and a good litmus test at this point. I mean, he's probably not much better than Eric Molina, but I think he probably wouldn't be as casual in that fight because Webb is a decent puncher and he's going to bring the pressure too. So maybe a better style matchup. You had Molina here sort of sitting back trying to counter. But Wardley's got to do more on the offensive end when he is the guy that's got to, really work for the win. Not just expect one punch to land, at some point during the fight. Obviously, almost came unstuck. But what did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.